like something here. I love Disneyland. I like Disneyland a lot. It actually took us quite a bit to get to know Disneyland. It's so funny because it's a small park, and a lot of people assume that they can just go there and just show up, which I guess in some ways you can, but I truly feel we were doing that and it was wrong because it took me 2 visits to really get to know Disneyland and decide that it's one of my favorites now.
I love Disneyland. It might be my favorite park of all parks. And I know I've said that on many times on the podcast here, but there's just something about it. The history, which I like, which you like more than I do, but I do like it.
Yeah.
And the proximity to everything. It's close to California Adventure if you want to go park hopping. The park itself is small. The food is better. It's close to the hotels. Downtown Disney's right there. It's just like you can go to Disneyland, park your car, and stay at a hotel, and you don't have to leave the property, and you don't have to get on a bus.
Well,
it's like got all those together for it. My favorite.
I think that so back to it being like a smaller park, and if you're a Walt Disney World regular, and then you're looking at Disneyland, you're thinking, well, I don't really need to kind of investigate and plan my day. But I think that's where we went wrong for quite a bit. And it wasn't that we didn't enjoy ourselves, but I don't think we maximized what Disneyland really is all about, which is surprising because, like you said, I'm really into history. And I know Disneyland's not supposed to be a museum, but it's obviously the park that Walt Disney himself walked in. So you would think I would go in with such just a great feeling. And I walked away without it. And I know it's because of the mistakes we made. So today we're going to share I don't want to say top mistakes because I feel like as we continue, there might be more that we'll add in for you. So maybe there'll be a part 2, 3, and 4 of this episode. But today we're going to share probably around 10.
Can I just do something real quick before we get into the podcast? I have to say, you know what? We'll do a lot of things on this show if you pay us money, right?
That's right.
Listen, if you pay us money, we'll do some things.
What are you referencing to?
The references, because someone bought a shirt on our shop. And if you go to unlockingthemagic.com, you can just click on the merch button. But they left a hilarious comment. And I usually don't cave into these, but it was funny. Can I read it to you?
Yeah.
All right, it says,
I'm nervous, actually.
This is from Nate. It says, how much of a donation would you guys give me to give my wife a shout out on the show? I'm like, you know what? I never even thought of that. I didn't know that was a thing. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give your wife a shout out on the show. You bought some merch. She loves the show. She's a super fan. Her name is Claire, and her last name is LeBen.
Hopefully he said that correctly.
You know why I know I said it correctly?
Yeah.
Because Nate said he showed me how to pronounce it correctly.
Oh.
So Claire, shout out on the podcast. Thanks so much for being a fan. Glad you enjoyed the podcast. Much appreciated on our end.
I love I finally saw the store merchandise. It's back up and running. There were some items sold out for a minute, but it's up, and I just really appreciate your support over there. I know I'm biased, but I really love our merchandise, and I love a lot of the shirts, whether you're a Disneyland fan, Disney World, or even we have Universal merchandise on there. So
yeah, listen,
thank you.
The bigger the donation, the more likely you're going to get a shout out.
Thanks.
Just kidding. Claire, thanks for listening. Yeah. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
All right, let's go to these mistakes to avoid in Disneyland. Starting with the first on the list is not getting to know the history of Walt in the park before the trip itself.
You know what? I thought this was an overrated, underrated show, and I'm not prepared for this. So you know what we're going to do?
What's that?
Not getting to know the history of Walt before you go to the park. Overrated or underrated?
It is underrated.
There you go. We're gonna do 2 shows in one here.
Okay, I love that. I mean, Disneyland, like I said, is the only park that Walt personally walked through.
Picked up trash in, ate in.
Judged, ate juice, drank juice.
Rode the train.
He literally walked down Main Street in his bathrobe. Yeah. I mean, where else are you going to get that, right?
Where else can you walk in the footsteps of Walt Disney in his pajamas?
In his jammies with his morning OJ.
Right?
I think that alone is something super magical, but it's one thing to know it and another thing to really get into it and really understand it. And if you're coming from the East Coast, it makes it easier because you have quite a bit of a long flight, unfortunately. And that is always a good excuse for me to start reading and just kind of diving in. So if you don't have time during the day-to-day before your trip, I highly recommend, either listening to a couple of the old episodes that we have about Walt or reading books and articles and really just understanding Walt the man and his vision with Disneyland, because It is fascinating. And what's gets me every time is the fact that he was told no a whole lot, and he still got this park opened.
No way.
You know what I mean?
Speaking of long flights, I could have sworn back in the 90s or some point a long time ago, they had this jet that was going to go from Boston to London in like 2 hours. Whatever happened to that
Like
thing?
a lightning speed? Well, I don't know, but they just unveiled out, I think it was out in California. I mean, it seems like that's where everything happens. But they debuted the flying car. So maybe we're one step closer.
I saw that. That's not going anywhere.
Oh, bummer.
That
Okay.
was not a good invention.
Well,
That looked like a hot mess.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, yeah, I was excited about
Every
it.
time I hear about flying cars, I think about how much of a chaotic highway Back to the Future 2 was.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
That was not pleasant.
I go
It
back
was
to
quite scary. You think you get scared now driving with me. Imagine if it's flying around in the rainstorm.
Yeah, that's also true. Good point. It's not like the Jetsons, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
It wasn't
bummer.
as pleasant as that.
Yeah.
Jetsons seemed like they had it all figured out.
So that would be cool if we get an hour or 2 hour flight from the East Coast to the West. I mean, that would be amazing. But
Yeah, 6.5 hours is not that great.
But back to my point, I mean, it just gives you an opportunity to dive deep in the history. And I think that's huge because I think that it's just uncovering layers and really makes it. And I talk about this about Walt Disney World a lot too. And that also kind of, I mean, talk about trying to get friends and family into Disney parks in general. I say just go and have them go into the history. I don't know anybody that wouldn't be fascinated by that.
Next on the list here.
Not arriving early for rope drop.
Hold on, you did it wrong.
Oh,
Overrated or underrated? Rope dropping in Disneyland.
underrated.
I actually agree. Underrated. Listen, I'm not a super morning person. I like to get up early and like have my coffee and chill. So I like getting up early. So I am kind of a morning person. I'm not a morning person that's like get up, get dressed, get out of the house, and go to the park at 6:30 in the morning.
You don't sleep with your suitcase the night before a trip?
No.
Oh, I do.
But I do have to say, if you are going to Disneyland for the first time, or even the second time,
Or even the third time.
getting there early is so underrated because you get to do so many things in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Because the park's so small, you can go from ride to ride to ride. Not that we want you to do that, but like if you want to experience the most you can, you get a lot done in a short period of time in the morning.
This is so different. The reason why I ended that statement with a question mark was because this is so opposite of what we talk about in Walt Disney World. And I'm not saying never do rope drop in Walt Disney World. You just have to.
I'll say it.
You'll say it. But somebody actually, I feel bad I don't have it in front of me, but someone recently messaged us on Instagram saying, talk me out of rope dropping for Magic Kingdom. She has littles and different age ranges. And I said, you know,
Littles. That's a new way to say it.
the littles.
You got littles.
I miss my littles. They're so cute. They grow up so fast.
They do.
She said, talk me out of it. And I think the reason why she was saying that was because she knows they're not morning people at home. And I said, you know, same with us. We never really were into more rope drop because it would just be chaotic. Like our kids would get stomach aches or it was never the right thing. But in Disneyland, what the advantage there also is because we're usually on East Coast time. So
Yeah, that's true. That is one advantage of being on the East Coast and going to Disneyland.
yeah,
Your rope drop at 6, it's really 9.
that's awesome.
You're like, wow, this isn't that bad.
But it's really the best way to see a lot of the park early. Disneyland gets busier later in the day. So if you want to see an empty New Orleans Square, which is my personal favorite, really soak in the atmosphere, the way Walt imagined things, you got to get there early.
And don't be intimidated by the line. Sometimes you go to Disneyland in the morning early, and there's like you look at the line in the causeway between California Adventure and Disneyland. You're like, holy moly!
Yeah, I do. I know.
But then
Yeah.
once you get in, you're fine.
Yeah, it's just set there to lower your expectations. But then once you're in, you're like, oh, that wasn't too bad at all.
And you don't have to do it every day, but
No.
rope drop at least one of the days you're there. You won't regret it.
I agree.
But and plus, even if you're staying, the cool thing about Disneyland is you can stay on property, and it's a little pricey. But even if you're staying at the Good Neighbor hotels, they're not that far away.
They're all so close by, so it makes it really easy to do that. And
It's almost closer to get from Disneyland to a Good Neighbor hotel than it is from Magic Kingdom and Disney World to Animal Kingdom Lodge.
or even closer.
Right? So
I know.
it's pretty close.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so that one is definitely something we'd suggest for Disneyland. And then this one goes along with it, and this is not heading towards Indy in the early part of the day.
Overrated or underrated? Heading towards Indy in early part of the day. I'm not sure if I get that question. Actually.
I'm not sure. Okay, go ride Indiana Jones
what now?
as soon as you can. It is underrated, right?
I'm not sure I'm going to agree with that.
Oh, because it gives you what? It's too early for you?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I want to go right to Indiana Jones. I'm already waking up early, although it is 9 o'clock technically because I'm on the East Coast time. But I guess you're right.
Here's why. Indiana Jones is a great ride, and I know a lot of people say, well, it's similar to Dinosaur. I don't have to do it, but I really, truly suggest riding it in Disneyland. It's, I think, more intense. The queue is outstanding. But what's really important here to remember is that, unfortunately, because it's so jerky, the vehicle itself.
That's rude.
It's such a jerk. It jerks. It is prone to breaking down. So if you really want to ride it, your best bet is earlier in the day than later in the day.
We did a tour recently, and one of the tour guides showed us there's a couple hidden gems in there, too. We should do a whole podcast about hidden gems in Disneyland that we learned on that tour.
I know. I go back and forth with that because then I'm like, well, I feel bad. Like, if we talk about everything that's found, then what's the VIP tour? Like, what's the tour guide going to?
Well, then you'll really get your money's worth because you got to make that tour guide work hard. I already know most of this stuff. You better find some stuff that I don't know.
That's true. Good point.
You're going to earn your money today.
Yeah. But I know. I mean, Indy, riding early, obviously, it can be a little bit thrilling. Maybe you're not as into that as I am. And I don't know.
Little jerky jerk.
It's a little jerky jerk, but I would suggest doing that.
You did have a good point here that it breaks down early. Like, Indiana Jones tends to break down more frequently than other attractions there.
Yeah.
So if you do want to go, like if you're dead set on riding Indiana Jones, you may want to get it out of the way before it breaks down. You're not able to do it.
Yeah.
It tends to be jerky in that way.
Okay, fair enough. All right, moving on. I think we're on like number 4 here. So this one is my personal favorite tip that this is a mistake people make, and I would suggest not doing it, is not allowing and preparing yourself for a pretty decent food and snack budget.
Or overrated or underrated. Being cheap, going to Disneyland.
Listen, I know if you're on a budget, definitely consider splitting meals to save money and doing quick service. But I would highly recommend going through and picking out the things that you want to eat at Disneyland, because let me just tell you, the food at the park, I hope I'm not hyping it up so much, but I don't know if that's a thing for Disneyland. California in general, the food is so good.
It's definitely the better food of the parks, so, and there's a lot more variety. Your kids are never too early to get jobs. Like, sell some stuff. I'm a big advocate of kids selling stuff early on in their life, because that's a valuable skill you can have later on.
Yeah.
Like Sally, when she's 6 years old, she can sell some stuff.
Sell some lemonade, do some lemonade stands.
6-year-old Sally has some 3-year-old Sally toys in that closet she can get rid of.
That's also true.
Right?
You know.
So, you know
what
what I mean?
Work hard, because you're going to want to eat the snacks, all the snacks. Even the churros taste different and better in Disneyland. And you just don't want to be thrown off guard and realize, oh, I haven't saved money for this, or I wasn't expecting to love the food so much. I personally feel like Disneyland, to me, like the attraction is food. Like, just go there and eat, and I'm so happy.
It's definitely one of the main attractions for sure.
Definitely.
And churros definitely taste better when you don't pay for them.
The kids would definitely say that.
That's true. They told me that before.
So that's just a tip that I would say. It's very personal to me because I'm a foodie and I love just eating out there. It's something about that California air. It's dry, so it doesn't, even though it can get very hot, I'm hungrier without that Florida humidity, I noticed. So it's like in Florida, when it's humid and you're feeling sticky, I'm not really always that hungry. In California, it's the opposite. I'm hungry all the time. Anyway, just a tip. Let's move on. Number 5, skipping out on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Whoa, this is a tough one, because if you asked me this before I visited Disneyland, hold on, let me rephrase the question. Okay. Overrated or underrated? Mickey's Runaway Railway in Disneyland.
Underrated.
Yeah, if you asked me that before I went, I would have been like, why? It's like Star Tours, right? Like, you've been to the Star Tours in Hollywood Studios. Why do I need to go to Star Tours in Disneyland?
Which is something we talk about a lot. Like, when you're going to Disneyland, don't do the attractions that in Walt Disney World. Like, don't.
With this being the exception, though. Exactly. See what I mean there?
I know what you mean.
Because I thought that before. Even the kids were like, hey, let's go on Mickey's Runaway Railway. I'm like, we've already been on that. Why do we want to go that here?
Right. We don't want to waste time on attractions we've already done. But we were wrong. Why
do I want to do that when I can get a free churro?
They were right. And because this one is worth checking out just for the queue itself and the fact, I mean, I love Toontown. I'm a big kid. I could spend a lot of time in Toontown. I know it's not for everybody.
Yeah, we know.
It is for me. Speaking of hidden gems and stuff, there was one in Toontown that we discovered recently too. I won't share it right now, but it's just worth checking out. I think it gives that queue sets up the stage better. Maybe I'm just torn. Maybe I'm just still heartbroken that they took the Great Movie Ride away, and that's why I like the one in Disneyland. But I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think the queue in Toontown 1,000 times better than the Great Movie Ride.
Doesn't it set it up?
I know I say Great Movie Ride. I understand it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
It's literally the Great Movie Ride that they put Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in.
I know. I'm so bummed.
And the queue in Disneyland is awesome.
It is awesome. It's just different, and I like that it's a theater, and it's fun. It's how I remember or feel. I feel more connected to Mickey in that particular queue.
Yeah, it fits in Toontown. It feels like it belongs there, and it's perfectly suited for Toontown.
Yes. I still don't see it in my eyes in Hollywood Studios.
It makes you remember. They should have done something. They should have, if they wanted to do it there, they should have done it there, but they should have remodeled the whole building.
Or do it in a different way, right? We can talk about this, I guess, on another episode. We'll go over all the things that we wish they would do differently, maybe. I mean, I get it. It's many people's favorite ride. It's a great attraction for the whole family, and I get that. It's just harder. If when you're comparing the two, I feel like the Disneyland version is almost no comparison.
That's true.
So this is that's how I feel. All right, moving on. I think this is number 6. This is really important. I feel specifically for Disneyland. It's obviously something for Walt Disney World, but Disneyland has that nostalgia. And I know a lot of people have always, especially us, like there are certain attractions that we definitely want to try for the first time. So when you're going, don't ignore the ride refurbishments and closures.
That's especially true if you go in off season.
Yeah.
Like we go in off season quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can't go in off season because they have school or work, and they can only go on vacation time or summer, which is probably better if you want to be able to see all those main attractions, because a lot of the refurbishments happen on those off seasons, which we happen to end up going to.
Yep.
So it's like less crowds, less rides, more crowds, more rides. Like, what do you want?
I know it's hard. So we didn't get to see Haunted Mansion recently. It was closed, and I think that's fine. And there's so many things to see in Disneyland that I don't think we'll get so bummed, or it doesn't like not make it worth it. It's just that seeing those closures and refurbishments well in advance so that you're prepared. So you're not totally looking forward to that one ride everybody wants to go on.
Yeah, like imagine if last time you're like, I just really want to do the train, Haunted Mansion, and Tiana's Bayou. And like all of them were down. You're like,
darn it.
What did I come here for?
How bummed were we when the bakery was down? Well, it was being refurbished. Everybody was so bummed.
The bakery too. That was like the whole thing was about the snacks. It's like, I want to go on Haunted Mansion. I want to have a snack. And then I also want to take the train around while I eat my snack. Guess what? I couldn't do any of that.
I know. Such a bummer.
It was a bummer. They should have texted me and told me that was going to happen.
Well, see, that's the mistake you made. You didn't check the ride refurbishment and closure list. So.
I thought that's what you were for.
I thought that's what you were for.
One of us. We need Unlocking the Magic Travel to help us out with that.
That's what we need. So really, that's what we do, and that's what
we do.
That's what we do.
Except we didn't do it.
We didn't ask. We didn't.
I gotta ask the guy in the chair. Hey, guy in the chair, I'm going to Disneyland. Can you? What's open? Like, I don't want to go there and be disappointed. Can you help me out a little bit here?
Right. So doing that now, I think helps. Again, it's not something that if you see closed, you're gonna say you're not gonna have a good time in Disneyland. It's just setting your expectations, right?
No. Well, then you get there and the guy in the chair texts you. He's like, "Bro, what are you doing?"
Although we had an unusual thing happen. We were in Disneyland Hotel, which we love, and the pool had an issue with the pool tile, and they did an unexpected closure for 2 weeks while we were there. So the whole pool was drained, and it was kind of a sight for sore eyes. And that was not something that was available until you got there. Like it was happened so quickly that even the guy in the chair, it would be difficult for him to know that situation. So
I don't know. I feel like the guy in the chair knows a bit.
It does.
He can figure it out.
But that can happen. So just, have your expectations set. They are amazing. They were like, you can use the other pool. You can go even to the Grand Californian pool. Which
you can fill your tub up like a pool.
You can fill your tub up. Maybe there were options. But it was just the main pool with the cool monorail slide was down. So that was a bummer.
Was.
But there's nothing you can do. That just I mean, people would then complain that the pool tile's loose and that it looks bad.
Not me.
Oh, you would just be happy with it?
I'd be like, you know what? You know what I mean?
Just look over there.
I'm in the pool. I don't care if the pool tile's falling off.
Okay, next up on the list is underestimating the weather.
Overrated or underrated? The weather.
The weather. Weather is underrated. I don't think there's anything on here overrated.
The weather is very important, though.
It's something that I didn't understand in the beginning, how California is basically in a desert. So you kind of get really hot in the day and then really chilly at night. So just be prepared so you're comfortable, and then you'll have a good experience.
Yeah, it's different than Florida. You go to Florida and Orlando, and if it's 85 degrees, it's like 85 degrees from 7 to midnight.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the same temperature. It very rarely cools off in the summer or the hot months.
Yeah.
But in California, it's 75 degrees. You're like, wow, I'm hot. And then all of a sudden, 4 hours later, it's like 30.
You're just chilly, and your blood thins. I don't know, or maybe it's just us. I don't know. But
Probably us.
And so just plan for that. Just bring sweatshirts and things. They have lockers, which if you want to store things away, that's easy for you if you really are into the fashion, which in Disneyland, let me just say, people watching in fashion, because there's a lot of locals that go, so it's probably easier for the locals.
Yeah, and you're not like a hot mess.
Well, that's just
like in Orlando, you rope drop at 6 in the morning. By 2:30, you're a hot mess.
I did a TikTok when they had a special event.
What is this TikTok you're mentioning?
They had a special event happening in Disneyland. Everybody was decked out, and I basically went up to everybody. I was like, "Can I please record your outfit?" And they were all so nice, and they let me. But I almost want to do that just in a regular week, because everybody just takes it up another level there.
That's not creepy at all.
I know. You gotta go for the ask or the answer. I would hope so. That's all I'm doing, is just saying, like, I really enjoy your outfit and it's inspiration. I wish I could do that, but my suitcase is stuffed to the brim and I can only pack so much.
Very true.
So it's a little harder when you're traveling, but I love it. All right. How about this one? Not taking a break or an afternoon power nap.
I would have thought this was crazy a couple years ago before we went, but it's so close. It's very helpful.
Who would have thought like a power nap is so important in such a accessible park, right? It's a small park, not very big, very close. You say, oh, it's not like Walt Disney World where it's so big, there's so much going on. Or even our kids are older now, right? So usually when you think nap, you have toddlers or really young kids that need naps. No. The adults need naps. And I think that's huge, because I feel like the midday crowds, it really can wear on you. And maybe it's also because you're there for the first time, you're trying to see so much, and there's so much excitement, but also you can crash hard because of that.
And it's because of the time change too, so it is helpful. Disneyland tends to stay open. It's not like Universal, which closes at 3:30.
Why does Universal close so early? Like
Universal is like a school. It's like, up 3:30, time to go home.
Not quite 3:30. He's being sarcastic, but it doesn't close very early.
Disneyland stays open till midnight, and when you're on East Coast time, that's very late. So you do need that mid-afternoon nap to kind of refresh and adjust to the time zone, so you can keep going, because you don't want to miss out.
Well, at night, especially if you're going for the holidays, seeing all the lights, seeing It's a Small World lit up, I mean, that is just magic on its own. So I just think it's important to do. But I don't know. It's also because maybe, like, I compare Disneyland to Magic Kingdom a lot. And unfortunately, there's no people mover in Disneyland anymore. So that usually is the spot where we can kind of chill out and take a breather, ride around. I mean, there is the Disneyland Railroad, but there's nothing quite like the people mover.
Yeah, where do you do that in Disneyland? That's a whole nother show we should do, where you can kind of chill.
The Disneyland Railroad, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know if it's as comfortable.
The Disneyland Railroad is great, but it has a lot of stops. And that stresses me out.
Yes.
Everybody getting on and off every 10 feet.
Slide down, slide over, or
slide around.
Yeah, so I would not compare it. I mean, it's a little, you could definitely people watch. There are areas we can go, but it's missing that people mover. I'm sorry. R.I.P. people mover. I know a lot of people are upset that it's not there anymore.
I mean, the tracks are still there, so it may make a miraculous comeback at some point.
No, I think when they did Rocket Rods or something, they said that something happened and they can't.
Why are you crushing my dreams, lady?
Oh. Yes, I hope that someday it makes a return.
Thank you. At least let us have some hope.
Number 9. Forgetting to check showtimes and parades. I think this can be translated right over to any
Overrated. Oh, did I say that out loud?
character meet and greets.
Wow. Let's just hang out together in a crowded group of people that we don't know.
If you don't, you definitely don't want to miss the shows in Disneyland. The performers are just outstanding. I don't know how many stars. I was going to say 10 stars, but a million. Like, they're just so great at what they do, and they immerse you in the magic, and then there's fireworks, and there's just so much to see. But you'll definitely miss out if you don't check the showtime. So just something to remember. It can be easy to do now with all the technology and the app and everything, but don't think because you're not a show person, you might not like it. Trust me, the Disneyland parades are just, they're plussed up.
All right, I'll trust you.
Okay.
I do think that's a great opportunity, though, the shows in parades.
What do you mean?
To go on rides.
Oh.
Because there's a little bit less people waiting in line because they're all watching the show and parade.
I mean, I guess if it's
right,
a first
it's like different if
yeah.
you're a local, that's not going to be what you want to do. But if you're going for the first time,
wait. If you're a local, maybe you're not going to watch the show.
Why? No, if you're a local, I feel like you'd watch the show, right?
This is tough.
Or would you get a snack?
What?
Maybe a snack.
That's a tough one.
But if you are a first timer and you're like, all right, I can see a parade in Magic Kingdom. They're good parades, I agree. But like maybe I'm not going to be able to get back on Haunted Mansion over here. Yeah. And the line was so long before. Let me go over there and go on.
See, this is why you can't do Disneyland in like one day. You have to make it a plan to go several days.
4 days. Like 2 and 2, right?
Yeah.
2 days Disneyland, 2 days California Adventure.
Little breaky break in between.
Yeah, a little snacky snacks.
A little pool.
Wait, we could have pool hopped.
We could technically.
We totally could have pool hopped last time. They literally said that. They said, you know what? The tiles fell off, but guess what? You can pool hop.
How do you get over there comfortably? That's the only thing. It's not
close, but not close in the bathing suit.
Right? They give you bathrobes. Could I walk downtown Disney in a bathrobe?
Not next to me.
I can barely do it in the lobby. Everybody. Why is that so awkward to you? I'm not.
To walk next to somebody in a bathrobe?
They give it to you in Disneyland. Like, I wear it as like I'm proud. I'm like, I'm staying here. I'm legit.
That's why it's awkward for me.
And I'm going down to the pool.
Because you're proud of it.
Oh. Well, they're great robes, by the way. All right. Last one. Couple last ones.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. This is probably more for me than Bruce, but this is leaving without having a souvenir budget.
Wait, why do you say that? I like cups and mugs.
I don't know. I didn't know you were the shopper.
I mean, I'm not a shopper, but I like to come home with some memorabilia.
I just think that Disneyland is so tempting. It's different. It has that different level of merchandise feel to it. Maybe it's because it feels more exclusive because it's further away from us. I don't know what it is, but they have park-specific merch, and I can't help myself. It's just a place that I got to get something. Unfortunately, the budget's not always that large, but at least budget for something. Just a token to remember your trip.
Yeah, the budget is sometimes complicated by the fact that it's very far to fly there.
Yes.
And expensive to be in California.
Yeah.
So sometimes that affects the budget.
And especially when you're budgeting already for food.
Right.
And you want your, all the things.
It's like, do I want this shirt, this hat?
Or do I want a bread bowl?
Yeah, or do I want a chimichanga?
Oh, gosh. And the Mickey beignets. And
I always, in the moment, want the beignets, but then after, I'm like, I should have got the shirt. Right?
That's because you eat more than 6. Yeah. It comes in 6. Just stick to the limits. Is 6 the serving size?
You don't need a dozen for one person.
Is the 6?
I think it's 3 and 6, isn't it?
They're small little Mickeys, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This one is a bonus one that our kids say, and a mistake that is not taking advantage of the single rider line. So single rider times on Matterhorn bobsleds, Millennium Falcon. We're not talking about California Adventure today, but that's actually a great way to get to ride Radiator Springs because the lines are usually endless.
Yeah, especially on not Radiator Springs, but the first 2 you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because you don't sit next to anybody anyway.
I mean, it's
great. Matterhorn is made for single rider.
Yeah, very true.
Like, I'll go on single rider. Like, I don't like single rider at all, but I'll go on single rider for Matterhorn or Millennium Falcon.
If you go onto the Disneyland website, they have the complete list of Disneyland resort attractions offering a single rider service, and they say this is right from their website. It says squeeze more magic into your stay by reducing wait times
I'm out.
at popular attractions.
I would rather die.
But it is a great way. It's a good tip, especially if you're going for the first time. There's, like I said, the earlier attractions that I mentioned, but even Hyperspace Mountain, which is a long line. I talked about already Matterhorn bobsleds, Radiator Springs. There's so many. There's so many that you can get done if you've never done before.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like Goofy Sky School. That one must be awkward. Wait a minute. Is that on the list?
Is that on the list?
I have to look again. Is
the Golden Zephyr on there?
I don't see the Golden Zephyr.
Oh, I love that ride. What about the swings?
Wait a minute. Goofy Sky School is so tight. Maybe it's just if it's party of two and then the one person sits in the back. That's how they do it.
That is.
The single rider. But yeah, it's on the list as the single rider.
That may be
option.
the worst single rider in the history of single riders.
Not Grizzly.
Name another ride that's worse than that.
Grizzly River Run.
No, because you don't sit directly next to somebody. You kind of do, but not.
But you get wet.
Yeah, but that's not as bad as sitting. I don't know if I'd rather. I feel very vulnerable on Goofy Sky School. I don't know if I want to be next to a stranger.
All right. Well, what about Millennium Falcon, where you actually have to do a job and you're meeting these people for the first time? Maybe that one. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, because then you have you have two things that could happen there.
One,
you don't really have to sit next to anybody, which is great. Two, if they're mean, you just botch the job.
Okay. You're like, this
You're
family.
like, I'm sabotaging this ship.
This family was so rude.
They didn't let me be the pilot. I'm taking this ship down.
We're going down with the ship. Did we just talk about an overrated item on this list?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, that's all I have for today.
Okay, I'm going to go through some of these because I honestly thought this was going to be an overrated, underrated. So we're going to go do like a quick overrated, underrated on this, all right?
Okay, go.
Overrated, underrated speed round.
All right.
And this is for Disneyland.
Are we each choosing? Or?
No, I'm just going to say something. Yeah, we can each choose, but I'm going to say what it is. You tell me if it's overrated or underrated.
Go.
Rise of the Resistance in Disneyland.
Underrated. Especially after going on the Adventures by Disney and meeting the Imagineer. Sorry, I have to say that.
All right, good point.
Okay.
We already said Mickey and Minnie's. How about Indiana Jones? Underrated, right?
Yep.
What about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? Is it not a very fast-paced ride? People overlook that a lot. It's like, there's history there, but it's kind of boring. That's what somebody told me once.
Wait, somebody said that?
Yeah.
Somebody said it's kind of boring.
Sitting right next to me, actually.
Oh my gosh! Wait, one of our children? Well, the cool thing. Okay, so first of all, underrated, but I also have a fun. Are you gonna go through all the list?
No. I'm gonna go through some of them. I'm not naming every attraction.
Is Alice in Wonderland on there?
No.
Because I was on Alice in Wonderland, and you can feel the heat at a certain point in Alice in Wonderland from Mr. Toad's. Just a hot tip.
That is a hot tip. Like Mr. Toad's.
Literally.
If you are having a chilly day at Disneyland, Mr. Toad's will warm you up a little bit.
There you go. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay.
What about
keep going?
the Blue Bayou Restaurant?
Okay. So
overrated or underrated?
We're gonna do maybe a review. Okay. So, that's a tough one. For the price, maybe overrated, but for the nostalgia, the service.
You need to go there with a checklist, and you need to say to Disney, I'm going to Blue Bayou only if you can do these things. I ain't sitting in the corner near the bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
And I want to go at a certain time, but you can't do that.
I know.
So which means it's overrated.
I think what it is they put one too many tables towards the back where people literally walk back and forth, and it takes away from not only the setting you're in, but it's just so noisy. So for that reason. But okay, move on.
What about the monorail, but not as transportation, as an attraction?
Underrated. I love the monorail.
I think underrated. I think it's overrated as an attraction in Disney.
That's because you're 6'2" and you can't fit.
But I do think it's underrated as a form of transportation because you get to go from Disneyland Hotel right into the park.
Okay.
You know?
Even though you always say, let's walk.
I do.
Yeah,
That's because the line is pretty long.
All right.
Sleeping Beauty Castle walkthrough. Underrated or overrated?
Underrated. And don't forget about this one. That's a mistake people tend to make when they're going to Disneyland is they totally forget, because the entrance is kind of hidden, that this is a walkthrough and it is outstanding and you have to do it. Please message me if you've done it and you want to do it, or experienced it. I want to know right then, because if you don't love it, I don't know what to tell you. It's just the best.
All right, and last but not least,
Yes.
are you ready for this one?
Yes.
This one is my shirt. I like Dole Whips and maybe 3 people on our merch store. Is that overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
It's overrated? That's rude.
Sorry.
No one's going to buy it now.
I'm just kidding.
You should have said underrated.
It's so underrated.
Underrated and undervalued. That's what I'm saying.
What about the nod to Labyrinth with the Goblin King Queen?
Yeah, I don't know if I get that one as much, but if you're a fan of Labyrinth, then that's the shirt for you, and like you could have a secret club.
How can you not be a fan of Jim Henson and Labyrinth?
I like Jim Henson, but that show was weirded me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a movie.
That movie.
Okay.
But what about I like Tonga Toast and maybe 3 people?
Underrated.
Would you rather Tonga Toast shirt or Dole Whip shirt?
I'm gonna say Tonga.
There's also blah blah blocky.
That's let's not forget that.
Blah blah blocky on all available in the merch. Go to our
That's right.
unlockingthemagic.com/merch. There's also a merch button there. You can check that one out. Definitely not. None of them are overrated.
Okay, that's right. That's
Right.
what I
think we should end it there.
Definitely.
Right?
We're done. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast.
Thanks.
Appreciate
everybody.
you again. Couple things.
Okay.
Hit like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this.
Like
And
and subscribe.
Remember, if you pay us, we will shout you out.
That's it. That's what we do here.
We are fans of donations. Thank you.
All right. That's going to do it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. See you right back here next week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.